Hello, and welcome to Direct Approach with Wayne Moorehead, an exclusive podcast by Direct Selling News, where host Wayne interviews the channel's leading corporate executives to provide timely insights and relevant takeaways to help you grow and evolve your businesses. In today's episode, Wayne is joined by Greg Provenzano, president and co-founder of ACN Inc. In 1993, beginning as a reseller of long-distance services in the U.S., ACN grew quickly, and within its first 5 years in the business, it had climbed to the number 22 spot on Inc. magazine's list of the fastest-growing companies in North America. Almost 30 years later, it offers a full suite of residential and business services in 26 countries on 5 continents. As the largest direct seller of telecommunications, energy, and essential services for home and business, ACN has continued changing with the times to provide services that customers use every single day. On this episode of Direct Approach, Greg shares his journey to direct selling as a young man from the inner city of Detroit and how he used his work ethic and lack of career options as a vehicle for success. Greg also explains how the company's massive, frequent, in-person events were instrumental in the company's growth and why it's so important to break through people's limiting beliefs to find success. He also talks about the role of personal development and why he believes now is the perfect time for the channel to grow. Across the channel, executives are constantly looking to hear from leaders like Greg to learn what's new and next for direct selling. We invite you to join us this October 6th and 7th in Irving, Texas for the Fall 2022 DSU event to learn from more than 30 plus of the highest performing and uniquely innovative companies in the channel. Hear from billion-dollar companies, up-and-coming companies from every category you can imagine, and even gain insights from the field perspective on how to best help support their success in today's digital social selling world. The event is less than 10 weeks away and promises to be the best one yet, with a completely reimagined format with more how-tos and concrete takeaways to help grow your businesses. Plus, priceless networking time with industry peers that you can only get by attending in person. Registration is free to all corporate executives. Visit dsu2022.com to register today and for all of the details. And now, please help me welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's guest, Greg Provenzano, president and co-founder of ACN Inc.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. As always, I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and I'm very honored to be joined today by an incredibly inspiring and impactful leader in direct selling, Mr. Greg Provenzano. Greg, thank you so much for being here.
It is my pleasure, my friend, and I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time. So I can't wait to be able to tell some stories and hopefully share some nuggets of wisdom that could help people out.
Oh, I absolutely. I know I'm really excited. I know the listeners are as well. I'd love to know a little bit about the path that led you into direct selling and founding ACN about 3 decades ago.
Well, my path to direct selling was a little bit longer than 3 decades ago, and I'm dating
Absolutely
right now.
Yeah.
But I grew up in the inner city of Detroit, and being in that environment, you don't have a lot of great opportunities. It was a pretty rough part of town, which was my upbringing actually. I made a commitment as a young boy, I should say. I was about 14 years old, I think. And I told myself that I would never live as an adult the way I grew up as a kid, because of the environment that we grew up in. And I said, man, if I just had a chance, I didn't care what I had to do. And I really did not know at the time what I was going to do, being that young. But I said, man, I'm going to work my butt off and figure stuff out. And I'm going to go and do something out of the ordinary from everybody else that was around me. But as I graduated from high school, went to college for about a year and a half, ran out of money, did not finish college. But I went to work like everybody else was going to work. That's all I knew. And I found myself following the same path that I told myself that I was not going to follow. But in that environment of that employment, somebody came up to me and told me about this part-time business opportunity. And these people were doing well, and they didn't require any college degree, which, fitted me really well. Didn't require any experience. And that he had said that, the gentleman that he was working with, he told him about me and wanted to meet with me. And so I met him. I had my first meeting, and the rest is history. That was in 1982, actually. And I got to tell you, for the first 3 years, Wayne, I was absolutely terrible. I knew nothing about direct selling, did not know how to talk to people. Growing up in the inner city of Detroit, there's a lot of things that you got to catch up on to, make yourself presentable. And so I was starting way behind the start line, if you will. So for the first 3 years, I just floundered. But because of the commitment I made with myself early on, that I was never going to go back to the way that I grew up, I was going to figure something out. This was my ticket out. Thank God that I was around some good people that poured into me, and I stuck it out and built an organization in that company. I left that company, after about 9.5 years of being with that one organization. Took about 1.5 years off, a little bit burned out. And that's when we formulated ACN, which was in the fall of 1992.
Oh, that's an incredible story. So I'm curious, and I'm guessing, would the alternative path had been, one of the factories there of the big motor companies? Is that what a lot of your friends or family were doing at that time?
Well, a lot of people were attracted to that business. That's that's the Motor City, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was employed by a snack food company, and I was in charge of their distribution for about 6 years. And I moved up the corporate ladder, a lot faster than the majority of people in that environment, because I was willing to work through my breaks. I was willing to work through my lunches. I was asking for overtime. So I showed a lot of initiative that everybody else was not showing. And so within a relatively short period of time, I worked my way up in the management circles, was making some really good money as a 21-year-old, but I made a commitment. I was not going to get stuck like everybody else.
Wow. I always find it amazing learning more about entrepreneurs and how, even from a very early age, they have that drive for something different, for something more. They have that vision that really helps to guide them, even in an early age. I think other people, maybe myself included, kind of have stumbled into entrepreneurship, at certain times in my life. But it seems like it was something, there are kind of those born entrepreneurs. And I think that you're, an incredible example of that. And I also find it really interesting that whether, on the distributor side, the field side, or the corporate side, direct selling seems to come into our lives at just the right time and is this catalyst for change, for evolution for ourselves, and really provide that path to, a better life and something more. I love the correlation, on the field side and the corporate side, but I keep hearing that story over and over again. That's an incredible story. Congratulations on, again, the success and the drive that's really gotten you here.
Well, one of the things that, in looking back at it, that I tell our leaders today is, one of the things that I found out early on, that there's great value in having no other options. When you don't have any other options and you need to make something work, you find out a way where sometimes there is no way. And that's what happened with me. I don't know if I was a serial entrepreneur at the time, because I didn't even know what that was.
Sure.
But I just was not going back, and I just wanted to persevere and do something great.
Yeah, you definitely had the spirit and characteristics, I think, of an entrepreneur and a leader. And now fast forwarding about 30 years since that founding, that's been incredible. That is an amazing accomplishment. What an incredible milestone! You're coming up on, I think next year's the ACN's 30th anniversary. So few companies make it a year, 2 years, 5 years, let alone have continued success throughout all of the change and all of the evolution over 3 decades. What do you feel, as you look back, have been maybe 3 of the most important factors to ACN's continued success?
Well, it's so interesting because, as you said, there are so many. But I really believe looking back on all the things that has happened to our company, that we just had an overwhelming sense from the very beginning that we were supposed to be doing what we were doing in spite of the odds. You know, and even when there were dark days, really dark days for ACN, where we didn't know whether or not we were going to be able to operate one more day. Within a relatively short period of time, another door, another window was open, which reconfirmed our thoughts that, again, we were supposed to be doing what we're doing. But I think what would serve everybody well is to know what our foundation is, what our foundational principles were that have set the tone or set the standard for our company. And I believe that has helped us to become the company who we are today and to be around for almost 30 years now. I think one of the first things that I can think of is that we made a commitment early on that we were never going to compromise who we are, personally and professionally. We just knew that if we went down that road, that it was going to turn out to be disastrous, because we've seen other companies, we've seen other CEOs that had did that in the past, and their entire organization just crumbled, and it affected thousands of lives. And so that was one of the first things that we said, is we weren't going to compromise anything that we stood for, personally and professionally. And I'll give you an example on the professional side. We started in Michigan. We were, myself and the other co-founders are from, and we advanced and spread our wings very quickly. And we had recruited somebody on the West Coast that turned out to be a very good leader, actually. Produced a lot of volume for our company in the early days. In fact, he became about 1/3 of our volume back then. Think about that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And he started doing things that were not in line with how we wanted them to be done. And so he was working outside of the parameters of the guidelines of how we wanted to operate our company. And so I called him up and I told him, I said, listen, this is, we got to bring you back in, do things this way. This is going to serve you well, treat your people well, going through all those teaching moments. And he fell in line within, for about 90 days. And then sure enough, couldn't help himself, got back doing the things that he was doing that we did not agree with. So this time I didn't put a phone call into him. I just I had my assistant send him a note to come to the home office, which was in Michigan back then. So he flew all the way over. I looked him in the eye and said, listen, nobody is too big for this company. We're not going to have one person compromise anything that we've established. I want you to know, if you continue to do what you're doing, that you're going to have to go do it somewhere else. You're not going to do it here. Again, agreed, fell in line. 60 days later, 90 days later, I forget which, we had to terminate him. And that sent a shockwave of confidence throughout our sales force, because everybody knew that we meant what we said. And so we had to let him go. And I have no idea what he's doing today, but he lost the opportunity of a lifetime. So I think that has served us well to operate that way. In fact, just a side note, I've even carried that thought process into my family. One time we were having a nice dinner. We were in Aruba with my wife. Sherry and I have been married for 41 years now. We met in high school. It's amazing.
That's
but
incredible.
we have three kids. We were in Aruba just having a great time. We're a very close family. They were teens at the time. And in the middle of dinner, I stopped them and I said, isn't it awesome that we love hanging out together, that we really enjoy each other's company? And everybody said, yeah, this is really, really great. Can you imagine, think about picture the kids all around the table doing this. And I said, the only thing that could mess this up, and everybody got real serious. And I said that it would be the choice of a bad spouse. Because if any of you pick a bad spouse, all of this gets compromised and ruined. So just be careful. Be careful, because you're not, when you pick a spouse, you're not only bringing the spouse into the family, you're bringing all their values into the family. And so you just need to be careful. Now today, my kids are all grown and married. I have 3 grandkids, one more on the way. All of them have chose well, thank God. And I believe it had to do with maybe it's not so much this just one conversation, but how we've operated as a whole, as a family unit, and from a company perspective, because they've seen ACN grow from the ground up. So that's one thing that I thought about.
That's incredible. I love that story.
Yeah, just never compromise. And I think that'll serve everybody well. The other thing that I know that we instilled within everyone in our organization is that we always focused on the success of others before our own. And that holds true even today, even after almost 30 years of being in business. And in fact, in the early days, I remember distinctly that some of our top leaders were making more money than we were. They were building homes that I aspired to be in. And when we started ACN, I was in a 2,000 square foot ranch home. And we had some of our people that were building 5,000 and 6,000 square foot homes. And I'm thinking, my goodness, this is awesome for them. But we knew that if we continued to provide the right environment for these people, that, our day would come as well. And it sure has. And ACN has served us well. We were always going to give back to the people that helped build ACN if ACN makes it. And because in the early days, we told them we didn't know whether or not we were going to make it because we did not know. But I said, if we do, it's going to be a great ride for them. And so we've been doing everything we can for 29 plus years now, trying to enhance the compensation plan. So the people that are really doing well, the people that are building the company, that they could do better financially. And I remember the very first time that we did this was in the early days of ACN, when we were just growing like you can't believe. The first 3 years of our company was just awesome. And we paid out residual income, and we had a 7-level payout back then. And I'll never forget it. The percentage was 2.5% on everybody's bills that our IBOs would get paid on. Well, because of the success that we had, we decided that we were going to go from 2.5% to 4%. And when we made that announcement, everybody just went wild. It was pandemonium. They could not believe what we did. And I thought it was because of the raise in income. But come to find out, it wasn't just the increase in money. The reason why they were so excited, the majority of that excitement came from the fact that they realized that we were going to follow through what we said that we were going to do. And for the very first time, for some of them, they knew that they were with the right company. And we've been doing that ever since. And I believe that's why we're able to attract the quality of people that we attract today.
That's really incredible. One of the things that really impressed me was that it wasn't about your product strategy, or your go-to-market strategy or your event strategy. You mentioned these first 3 things were really kind of values-based, values-driven, and people-based. And I think that really is a testament to your leadership style and the other owners there. And I know that laid an incredible foundation, spending the time early on to really help define who you are, what you stand for, the things you will, and maybe just as importantly, with the example you gave, those things that we won't do. It really helps to establish the culture. And I think over time, it really helps to make the decision-making process going forward. Once you've really had these moments where you've drawn a really solid line on that you won't cross, I think it makes things simpler. It doesn't always make those decisions easy.
Yeah,
but it definitely makes them more simple. So I'm really impressed
by. John Maxwell said this. I remember John Maxwell when I was in my 20s. He told me something that changed my life. He said the most successful people that he knew at the time made difficult decisions early on in life and then managed those decisions for the rest of their life. And that's what you're talking about right now. Making those very important but foundational decisions that you just won't even entertain. And then you're right, they're still difficult. But if you don't have to entertain them because you have committed to this list of do's and don'ts, it does become easier.
Absolutely. And I think as you scale, it allows you to move more quickly and faster, which is a big part of success as you scaled, was just being able to say yes or no or make decisions really quickly instead of, debating and wrestling with those decisions. That's incredible. I love that story. And I love that you led with those 3 again. never compromise who we are, put the success of others before our own, and give back to the people. And I know that in a few minutes, we're going to dig into more of these, especially give back to the people. But from kind of a marketing and culture establishing sense, I think one of ACN's superpowers have been events, experiences, meetings, kind of that face-to-face cultural experience. As I mentioned to you, I used to hear about your events and the attendance and the frequency of those events, and was always just blown away, and like, how are they getting that many people to come together that often? It was truly incredible, and really insightful for me as a marketer, making my way through my career in direct selling. But can you talk a little bit about the importance of those events, of bringing the field together, maybe the cadence of the meetings that you felt, every so often, maybe some of the excitement or momentum could wear off, or, we need to inject a little bit more in.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We are so big, as other companies are, on providing the right culture and environment for people to plug into and win. And we had felt that, if people were left on their own, most people have never done anything like this before. They've never given a presentation. They've never led a group of people. And so there were some things that need to be instilled in them in regards to techniques of how to build a business, because, in our industry, it's a very simplistic business model that says the only way that we win is if other people win. The only way that we make money is if we show other people how to make money. And in our business, the only way that we can generate the revenue for the company is to show other people how to build their company within a company. Well, we didn't want them just to be in business for themselves. We wanted to have a support system in place. And so we had felt that we needed to be in front of these people every 90 days. And we've done that every year pre-COVID. Because those events, they instill such belief in people that not going to an event, it'll take them years to get to that level. And just by spending 3 days with us, we had 3-day events back then. I told everybody that we would advance their business by a minimum of 6 months, just because of the higher level of belief that is going to be instilled in them by being around all of these people that are like-minded. Because, as you know, Wayne, a faulty belief system will eat at you. No, it limits you. Honestly, I believe it'll eventually destroy you. And without a strong belief system in what you're doing, you miss huge opportunities. So our events allowed people to take those limited thoughts, the limitations within their mind, and just expand them, because we had thousands upon thousands of people in an arena that were validating what was possible for them. Not guaranteed, but what was possible for them. If in fact they sacrificed, they worked hard, they paid a price, they did the things that most people are not willing to do. And those environments, in my opinion, were priceless, not only for them, they were priceless for us, because it gave us an opportunity to see and meet and shake hands and congratulate and high five and hug. And we had thousands of people walking across the stage that a lot of them were in tears, because nobody ever gave them that attaboy. They were getting beat up at home, they were getting beat up at work, but they come to our environment and we just poured goodness back in them, and they left. I'm telling you, they had armor so thick, nothing could penetrate. And they went back and some of them built tremendous businesses.
That's amazing. Your events have been truly incredible. I know they've had a huge impact on your continued success. And I do agree with you. I think they're so vital. They're so important, especially in direct selling, where there's so many of the people that join that we might never meet otherwise. It's that event where loyalty happens, where that begins, where leaders are created, where the brand is really built. I think it is the most important brand touch point that the field can have with the company. we do corporate visits and website and all these other marketing touch points, but the energy that you feel at a direct selling event is truly transformative. And I think that your cadence of every 90 days has been really important too. I think there is this probably, drop off spot somewhere in there. And I'm sure you kind of learned about it along the way. And that's where you came up with the 90 days. But, if we wait too long to get back with the field, some of that energy, some of that momentum, may dissipate. But having this kind of continual, catalyst, or continual injection of energy and brand and motivation and purpose, I think can have a pretty incredible impact on those distributors. And I also think, we know that there can be varying levels of support throughout the field, and that's one of the ways that corporate can come in and really make sure that those principles and practices and programs, are really being instilled into the field the way they need to be.
Yeah, it gave us an opportunity to be in front of them and to have a personal communication with them and to pour into them some business principles, some motivation, some vision casting. All those things come into play. And ACN, I believe, is very unique in that regard, where myself, Robert Stevanovsky, Mike Kupas, Tony Kupas, we just didn't sit on the sidelines and have all of our leaders, do all the heavy lifting. We were leading from the front. We continue to do it, actually. We're on stage. We're doing leadership sessions. We're showing people how to get customers, teaching people how to, build a big business. And even after 29 plus years, well, let's say 30 years now, because it's right around the corner. I mean, we're more excited today than possibly when we began, because now we know what we know, that there's no longer a question of whether or not we're going to make it. It's how big can we be? How many people can get attracted to this wonderful opportunity where you can get paid on services that people need, want, and use every single day? It really is a dream come true. Now, when COVID hit, all this was a different story, right?
Sure.
Right? Because we're in 27 countries, and overnight, think about this, overnight, we couldn't do a meeting. So we had to shift, we had to pivot. Thank God for Zoom. That really served us well, over the last couple of years. But now things are loosening up with COVID in many countries and in many areas. Now we've learned some things along the way that we can have a hybrid model that's even more effective than the model that we thought was working the best. We can have a hybrid model with Zoom meetings and in-person meetings, and we're seeing some great momentum being generated for people that have mastered that business model of using both.
I absolutely agree. I think we're getting kind of the best of both worlds. We can get, more immediacy with the Zoom, but then keeping those in-person, face-to-face kind of culture building events is going to be vital. You mentioned your other partners there, and I want to get your thoughts around selecting the right partners in business. I do think it is incredible that for, almost 30 years now, 4 partners have stayed together. They've been actively involved in growing and driving the company. Can you talk a little bit about the decision-making with, and selecting the right partners, how you stay aligned, and maybe how you've divided the responsibilities there and then continued to work together? Because I think that's so rare to have all founding partners involved. Over time, life changes, things change, a partner might cash out and, go live on a golf course, but the ACN partners haven't done that at all. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's so unique, Wayne. I mean, what the divorce rate is and 2 people trying to be together for as long as we have, and we got 4 of us. And so this is one other testament to that thought that I told you about earlier, that we're supposed to be doing what we're doing. Because I didn't know Robert Stevanovsky for 3 months before we started ACN. I didn't know Mike and Tony Kupas for 3 months before we started ACN.
Interesting.
We got introduced by a mutual friend that, somebody knew Robert, somebody knew me, somebody knew Mike and Tony. And it was a unique thing that we came together at a point in time that was just aligned. It was an alignment. I believe that to this day, that can't be described other than a divine intervention with us. And I believe that God has had his hand on this company for many, many years. And I believe that because of the foundational principles that we put in place, that we have continued to put things on the stage that are attracting the right kind of people. And it has to do with the mindset of myself, Robert Stevanovsky, Mike Kupas, and Tony Kupas. I can tell you, because I've been in every board meeting that we've been in, that nobody cares what title that they had. Nobody ever cared about who had the biggest office. We needed something to work for our family, just like the people that we're attracting today. We didn't come from money. We needed ACN to work. If ACN didn't work, honestly, I would probably be selling cars in Detroit, Michigan right now, because nobody was going to hire me. I didn't have any resume. I don't have a college degree. Who's going to hire Greg Provenzano? Nobody. So I'm so grateful for what the ACN opportunity has done for me. But I also believe it's due to the thinking and the philosophies that we have been able to instill within the company. I'll give you an example. Every decision that we make has to run through 3 filters. Is it good for the IBO, the independent business owner? Is it good for the customer? And is it good for the company? And if we can't get a yes answer for those 3 filters, we don't implement that decision. We just don't do it. And, because you can't run a company where it's all IBO benefiting, because obviously the other 2 things will falter. You definitely can't run a company by giving away the services. The customer would love that, but you can't do that. And you can't run a company where the company is the only one benefiting from everybody else's work. That's not going to work either. So those 3 filters have to be met, and that decision-making process has served us well. And you asked the question of how do you guys stay aligned? You've been around for 30 plus years, where I mean, it's no secret. Those of you that are married, that every day is not a great day. You don't get along with your spouse every day. There's some days that you look at each other and say, what in the world did I do? Right. But you love one another. You're committed to one another. Right. Every season is not going to be great, but you're not going to quit. Right. So that's the way that we are as founders. We go into a boardroom, we hash out issues. Sometimes we agree on them, sometimes we don't. But at the end of the day, when we walk out, we all agree on one decision. We're on one accord. That's what we promote. And we just run with it. And that has been something that has just been incredible to witness and be a part of. I'm very, very proud of that, actually. And I can tell you this, and because I've been involved in every board meeting for almost 30 years now, there never has been one decision that we made that surrounded the concept of how can we as co-founders make more money by tweaking the comp plan. Because when you own the company, you can do whatever you want. How can we as co-founders make more money by tweaking the comp plan where everybody else makes less? There's never been one decision made surrounding that topic. It's always been, how can we enhance the plan so people do more, so people can make more by doing more, and then we'll attract more, and that way everybody will win. Very, very proud of that.
Yeah, that is amazing. And again, so rare to have 4 founders for so long. I think it made me think about going back to those kind of founding values and principles, those 3 things that you established early on. And again, I think without those anchors and guardrails, it's really easy as a company and even as a founding group to get off course a little bit there. So congratulations that you've been able to really come together and make that work. And I love the filter for decision making. Is it good for the IBO? Is it good for the customer? And is it good for the company? Again, I think establishing these foundational principles early on make things so much more simple, where you don't have to wrestle with it. You don't have to debate it. I think it sounds to me like it's gone a long way in the continued success and the continued partnership
Sure.
of the other founders there. I think another thing that makes ACN so unique, especially in the direct selling industry, really comes around the product strategy. So many of the companies that I've been a part of are focused on more consumables or consumer products, and you and the company have really been focused around services. Can you talk about some of the differences and advantages of focusing on a service offering versus a physical or consumable product?
Yeah. I came from a service-based network marketing company, the one that I stayed at for 9.5 years. Mike, Tony, and Robert came from a product-based company. And so you can weigh out the advantages and disadvantages of both, but we leaned on and drew towards the service related businesses simply because of, no inventory, no deliveries. It was a
Sure.
very simple thing. And to get involved with telecommunications, and that was our only business back then, was just long distance phone service. Most people don't even know what that is today, but that was our
I remember.
business. Yeah, that was our business back then. Think about this, buddy. We started a company, launched it in 1993. There were 600 plus other companies going after the long distance portion of the phone bill. 600. Wow. The top three were AT&T, MCI, and Sprint. And every time that we switched them from their company to ours, they would send out a win back check of $50, $75, sometimes $100. And if those customers endorsed that check, what they were in essence doing is giving that company permission to switch them back. They didn't. The consumer didn't know it, but that's what happened. And so we were fighting to acquire customers. We are fighting to retain customers. But here's the unbelievable thing. I remember I told you we had great momentum in the first few years.
Yeah.
Within our first 5 years of being in business, we were the 22nd fastest growing company on the Inc. 500 list. We did over amazing. $300 million of revenue for the long distance company that we represented, small regional carrier out of Ohio. They were ecstatic with us.
Absolutely battling. I mean, that's so impressive, especially battling those incumbents, those giants. Yeah. It really was kind of a David versus Goliath. Sorry, I interrupted there, but
no, that's all right.
That story. That's amazing.
And that's a testament to our system. It isn't a testament to me or the co-founders. It's a testament to the system that we put in place, where people can get involved with our company, be a part of a culture, get involved in the environment, learn the process that you're with people that are willing to teach and train you how to do it. And then if you're willing to work, sacrifice, do all the things that you need to do, possibly great things can happen for you. And so going into the service industry just made sense to us, to get paid on services that people need, want, and use every single day and pay for. They're already spending the money.
Sure.
The money's already spent. How wouldn't it be great to get involved in a company where you're providing real value on services that people can't do without, and you can create a residual income for you and your family? That, my friend, is a dream come true. It's been an amazing run for 30 years now.
Absolutely. So you started off obviously with a very focused kind of product or service, a service offering there. How did you and the other partners think about evolving that product offering or service offering in the form of extensions or bringing other things into the portfolio? What was that kind of strategy process like as you grew the portfolio?
Yeah, well, we've always viewed ourselves as a distribution system. And because we made a decision to go into the service business, we stayed predominantly into the service related industries. And so for a long time, we never entertained any products, but as we expanded our footprint, over in the European market, over into the Asian market, the Latin American market today, we stuck our toe into products, and that was in the health and wellness field, where we did well for a period of time, but come to find out that really wasn't our niche. And so since then, we've gotten back to our core values of just being involved in the service related business. And so we entertain anything that makes sense that that we feel that the consumer needs, that we can provide value for, and that the company can make money and we can generate a residual income for our IBOs. And so there's a lot of things that come our way. Most we don't even entertain, but there's some that just made sense. In fact, just recently, we acquired a great company just last year. Actually, we acquired two companies, both of them great. But one of the companies that I want to tell you about is they had a service that they were already marketing that we integrated within the framework of ACN, and we just launched a service. It's called Impact Health Share. We just launched a service maybe 90 days ago, and we're providing great value in the healthcare industry today that we never even thought about. But because of this alignment with this other company, and now they brought along some great leaders. The other company brought along some great leaders. Now they're all ingrained in the ACN network and the ACN family. And now we have an additional service that just made sense for us to get involved with, and providing great value for the consumer and great revenue for the company, bringing additional revenue, additional residual income for the IBO.
That is an incredible vertical there on the health front. Obviously, one of the fastest growing categories, and is projected to be for the next couple decades. So I think really wise and really smart to be getting into that category as well. I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about integrating, as you've acquired a company, integrating the products, integrating especially the fields, those two sales groups. What have you found most successful in bringing them together and kind of creating that one family? Because again, I think so many times when people acquire companies, even integrating employees can be really different into a different culture, let alone a sales force. What have you found to be really successful? And I think it's so important because I think we're going to continue to see more and more acquisitions and mergers and things like that over the next 5 to 10 years. So I would love to hear what you found most successful in merging brands, cultures, and companies.
Well, first of all, because we're not going to compromise who we are, when you have these initial conversations, you need to bring that up, because if they don't have buy into who you are as a company, nothing is going to work. I don't care, who they are or what they look like or how much revenue they have or what leaders they can bring to the table. It's not going to work. And so you communicate those core values. But we had a relationship with the CEO of that company for many, many years. And we were friends. And so, she knew what our values were. We knew what her values were. But we wanted to make sure that their leadership understood ACN as well as she did. And so we had a meeting with all of their top leaders where we could, talk about culture, talk about environment, talk about events, talk about leadership, talk about, what our belief systems are and how they can integrate their skills and abilities into our system and have a greater portfolio of services than they've ever had in their careers. And so we brought them over and, through a lot of time, a lot of conversation with the inner circle of leaders, a lot of meetings, a lot of Zoom calls, having events, in-person events where both organizations were, you can have a melding, like the Brady Bunch type of thing, where, they can have conversations. And some of our leaders, our existing leadership, they were some of the greatest testimonials for the people that were coming over on validating the company, validating the compensation plan. And that has served them well, more so than us just telling them how great and wonderful ACN is. To hear from people that are on their side of the fence now saying, hey, I've been with this company for many, many years. Yes, they do follow through with what they say they're going to do. The compensation plan is tremendous. Here's what it's done for me. The same thing could happen for you if you work hard. That has gone a long way as well.
That's incredible. It's such a great lesson that I think all of us need to learn. And again, we'll continue to see more and more. And I think with your 30-year track record of doing what you'd say and the things that you committed to, it had to instill trust in the incoming sales force. I also think it's interesting too that you didn't just say you announced it and everybody get with it and you moved on. But it sounds like it was a process and that you really took the time with leaders at all levels and the employees as well to really create that culture, to show the collective benefit, that collective vision going forward. I think that can be one of the great errors, is just kind of announcing and saying, hey, we communicated, everybody get on board and move on. But it sounds like you approach the process really
No,
strategically.
it was a Herculean effort. It wasn't easy, and Robert Stevanowski spearheaded this whole thing. And he was instrumental with bringing us together with both companies, by the way. And he initially met with all the leaders, told them how ACN was. And then after that, that communication bridge, if you will. And then we went in and, did meetings, had, dinner, broke bread together, shared stories, developing relationships. That's what it's about. And then either you feel good or you don't. And that's okay. It is what it's going to be. But luckily for them and for us, both companies saw great value and great benefit in aligning efforts. And now we're a greater company because of it.
Amazing. I think there's definitely a theme emerging of finding the right partners out there and bringing it together to create something more, something greater. Continuing with the field, I know that that's something that you and the other founders have really focused on and invested in and really understand that they're the engine of the business. And I know that personal development, you talked a little bit about it as it relates to the events, but I know personal development is really important to you. It's been something that's maybe been a thread throughout a lot of direct selling companies, but it's something that you really shine the spotlight on. Can you talk a little bit about how that, in today's direct selling world, is that still vital and important?
Yeah, for sure. It's so easy to talk about something that has had such a dramatic impact personally on me. As I told you, I grew up in the inner city of Detroit, and I didn't even know what personal development was. I remember when I was 22 years old in 1982, I picked up my very first book and I says, oh my gosh, people really think this way. Somebody actually wrote this stuff. I've never been around anybody that had these thoughts or communicated to me the way that this book had communicated to me. And I says, there's a whole new world out there that I can be a part of it. And it further validated that I was on the right road where I was going to figure it out, didn't have to go back. And honestly, since that day that I got exposed, I've been reading and listening and writing, taking notes and trying to implement things in my life. And I'm nowhere near the person that I was at 22. And it's not because of a formal education. Like I said, I got a year and a half of college and then I ran out of money. It's simply because of the people that I've been around, the books that I've read, the things that I've listened to, the things that I've implemented in my life. And hopefully I've transitioned some of those things into my family. I look at my kids today, they're all married. They're having kids. They're great members of society. I love them. I'm close to them. I'm very proud of that. And I think it had a lot to do with who I become as a person because of the personal development side. And that's one reason why it's so easy for me, for example. And the same thing holds true for Robert and Mike and Tony. If you saw where we've come from, I don't think there's one person today that would have followed us if you saw us when we started ACN. It's kind of funny, but there were some people that believed in us. And I believe it was because we were evolving and we were transparent at the time. We were vulnerable, right? And I think that goes a long way. But today, because, it has such impacted, our lives, we have implemented this in our system of personal growth, personal development. A lot of what we do at our events has a lot to do with mindset and getting and eliminating distractions, being around people that want the best for you. And yeah, we teach all the fundamentals as well: acquiring customers, building a business, looking at the services, details of the services, learning how to sell the services. And so all those things come into play. But personal development, honestly, for me today in 2022, should even play a bigger role than it has in the past, because today, as you well know, there are so many distractions, man. I mean, the stuff that kids have at their disposal today, and what they get exposed to at such an early age, without parameters, it's disastrous for them.
Yeah.
If somebody can point them in the right direction, because look, it's not for lack of information today. You can have personal development going 24/7 and never run out, right?
Right.
Today's so different than it was. You had to buy cassette tapes and rewind and play a 8-track, rewind and play. Not like that today, right? You got everything at your disposal right on your smartphone. But it plays such a bigger role today, in my opinion. And I just think that the leader has a responsibility to continue to learn. John Maxwell said, "You stop learning, you should stop leading," and that's a fact. So you really need to be careful who you listen to. Be careful, who's influencing you. Be mindful of the books you read, the music you listen to, the podcasts you listen to. Are they benefiting you? Are they pushing you towards a direction that you want to take your life, or are they retracting from that direction? Now, you got to make that decision up front. And if you do, you'll be able to say yes to certain things and no to certain things. And over a 2 or 3 year period of time, you won't even recognize yourself. I believe that can happen for anybody that's very diligent and intentional with putting themselves in an environment of personal development, for sure.
I agree 1,000% with everything you said. I know it's had a big impact on my life as well. I agree. It's more accessible than it's ever been. And we just need to make sure that we carve out the time. And I think that to grow sales, one of the best ways is to grow those that are doing the selling, those that are actually out there selling the products. That is one of the levers that we can have in not just selling products, but helping to grow people as well. Super vital. So one of the other things, you touched on this a little bit, but I want to talk or get your insights on treating the field like partners, and really making sure that as the company wins, they win as well. And I think that is also where we all know the value of the field and the sales leaders, but I think you and ACN have taken it to a whole nother level, and that's been one of the other factors in the success. Can you talk about some of the ways that ACN kind of takes the field and turns them into partners?
I would say the majority of that process has to do with developing relationships with your leaders. But in North America, I know all of these leaders. I know their spouses. I know when they have kids. I know what their birthdays are. It pops up on my phone. I wish them happy birthday. They send me, WhatsApp messages, Happy Father's Day, Merry Christmas. That's atypical in a corporate environment. And so you have those relationships because they know that we put them first, and that we want the best for them. And we continue to provide the right environment for them to continue to win for themselves and for their families. And so that goes a long, long way. And so if you're not willing to invest the time in building these people, I think it's doing them a huge disservice and the company a huge disservice, because there's going to be a gap there. And with ACN, I can tell you that we've developed strong personal relationships with all of our people. Now, does that mean that everybody stays? No. There's some people that have left, and that's okay. Our philosophy is if you see that there's a better opportunity than ACN, then that's where you should go. There's no chain holding you down here. Just don't mess around with the existing business. Then we got a problem.
Right.
And so, but there are people that have come and gone, and that will continue to be. And I'm just of the belief that anybody that's here is supposed to be here. Anybody that's not here is not supposed to be here. And I just live my life that way. That's the leadership style that myself and Mike, Tony, and Robert have, and that has served us well for many years.
Absolutely. Another really interesting dynamic between, I think, the founders and corporate and the field is that I think you really recognize activity over tenure, which I think is really valuable. We've all had, again, this is an experience we've all had. we have sales leaders that come in and of course they love the promise of residual income and retirement and things like that. But you've continued to recognize those that are building, that are creating a lot of volume and activity. Can you talk about some of the ways that you recognize or shine that spotlight on activity over tenure?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it all boils down to one very important word, and that word is called relevance. I mean, tenure does not mean you're relevant. But if you're in the top 10 or top 15 in production, in the categories of production that we recognize, that says to us, says to the leader, and says to their organization that they're actually leading from the front and doing the things that the compensation plan is telling them to do. So those are the people that we want to recognize. In fact, at every one of our events, you can't go on stage to teach anyone unless you are a top producer. We don't care how long you've been with ACN. If you're one of the top income earners in our company, none of that matters unless you're actively building and acquiring customers where you can teach and train others how to do the same in this market, not a market 10 years ago, but in this market, today's marketplace. And so if you're not relevant, it doesn't mean that you're not important. It doesn't mean that you're not valued. All those things are still hold true, but you're not going to be on stage. And so that's the way that we've operated ever since we started. And you know what it does? It eliminates all the politics. It eliminates all the egos, people that want to be on stage. Well, look, if you want to be on stage, here's the category. Shoot for the top 10. You can be on stage. You can teach, train, do whatever you want. But here's what you got to do. Here's the gate you got to go through to that stage. That it really has eliminated a lot of headaches for us when we do events, because people know up front that they got to compete. They got to do the things the compensation plan is telling them to do, be relevant, and you can train.
I love that. I wish I had the determination to do that earlier on. I think that when you make, again, going back to the beginning, if you make that decision early on, it makes things a little bit simpler down the road, but it just sends such a powerful message and is such a powerful, culture building artifact that I think that's just absolutely genius. As you look back on your time at ACN and your career extending beyond that, what have been some of the biggest leadership lessons that you've learned that maybe you would have loved to have known earlier in your career?
Success without relationship in your family, I believe, is a huge error in judgment. And I've seen it happen. You've seen it happen, with many people. One of the things that I love about my life, one of the things I love about most of our leaders' lives is they've never lost sight of what's most important along the way. They never forgot where they've come from. And it's so easy to do because most people don't prioritize their life the way that they should. They think that, all this success and all this money and the homes and the cars, they think that is going to satisfy. And I got to tell you, it really doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't. What satisfies is when you have a good family unit, when you got your spiritual life in order, when you got your personal life in order. Everybody's got to make money. Everybody's got to make a living, but don't lose sight of what's important. And I believe that we as co-founders, I think we've done a pretty good job at that. Not only personally, but instilling those values that there's more important things in building a business. And there's not a lot of co-founders of a company that's going to tell you that, but that's what we've instilled in all of our leaders. And I'm very, very proud of that to see our leaders do very, very well.
I agree. I think making sure that we give enough focus and attention to all the respective areas in our life is going to make us better in each of them, as opposed to thinking we can focus on one more and not negatively impact those others. Sure. That's really, really important. So last question here, 30 years looking back at ACN and now looking forward, what do you see as the future for ACN? And then also, as part of that, what do you see the future of direct selling?
At the risk of saying something that people expect me to say, I'm going to tell you that we are in a position today that we've never been in 30 years. We have a reputation that's awesome. Our compensation plan is tremendous. Anybody that took a look at our plan, they know that the possibilities of making short-term and long-term money are there, getting paid on services that people need, want, and use every single day, pay for every single month. That's a dream come true. We have leadership today that are just the salt of the earth people that have proven that they're with a company that will deliver if in fact they're ready, willing, and able to pay the price long enough. So our future, in my opinion, is very, very bright. Our reputation is incredible in this industry. And it isn't because we're perfect. We're far from perfect. I'm probably making a mistake during this interview. But our heart is right. And we always want to make things right. And we want to do what's best for everyone. And I think that because of that, and because of the foundation that we've laid for the last 30 years, that I believe that our future is unlimited, especially with the economy the way that it is today. And I hate to say this, but I personally think it's going to get worse. I think that inflation is going to be rampant. I think people are going to be looking for a plan B, going to the industry now. I think the direct selling industry is perfectly poised to give people hope again, because most people have lost hope. Most people have lost that winning edge. That everybody that I speak to outside of ACN, they have mediocre mindsets today. They're just surviving. They're waiting for the next handout or whatever the case may be. We can provide, as an industry, hope and opportunity for people, and invite them in and pour goodness back in them that society has stripped away from most people. There's so many people that are angry today. They would blow up at you at the drop of a hat. It's simply because they're hurting. They're hurting inside. They need hope. They need opportunity. They need somebody to put their hand around them and say, hey, I have something for you, and everything's going to be okay. And I'm going to teach and train you how to do all the things that I'm showing you right now. If somebody can do that with somebody like me 40 years ago, growing up in the inner city of Detroit, and give me hope and give me opportunity and give me a chance not to live in the ghetto of Detroit anymore. Think about how much greater impact we can have today with the reputation that we all have in this industry, with the companies that we all represent, by doing something great for somebody else. And I think that that's a responsibility that we have. I really do. And I think that we got to continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to lead, continue to do the things that we were taught to do, and don't get tired doing them, because there's more people that we have to reach.
I think that's the perfect message to end on, Greg. And I look forward to continuing to watch ACNs and your continued success. Thank you for the leadership that you give at ACN and throughout all the direct selling and the example that you and the company have been.
Thanks for the time. Have a great day.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in. We invite you to subscribe so that you are the first to know when new episodes are available. We hope to see you at the Fall DSU event taking place Thursday, October 6th and Friday, October 7th in Irving, Texas. Please go to dsu2022.com to register for free and for all the details. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.